Well, biometric authentication has entered the mainstream. It is therefore no surprise that commercial biometric authentication has taken a huge step forward with the launch in 2014 of fingerprint sensors on high-end smartphones. We discussed biometrics as a security solution with an expert in studio. We are seeing more and more use of biometrics in different spaces, in buildings and homes, and we're beginning to see it now on smartphones and PCs in the form of fingerprints and facial recognition. Where are the new market opportunities for biometrics right now?
Yeah, so you're right. You see more and more biometrics in everyday life and people are getting acquainted to it. You need to realize what we try to achieve. What's behind the scene is a wish to do both security and user convenience at the same time. In the past, if I wanted to secure your digital life, I was adding a lot of layers of security to you. For example, enter a passcode, get a password coming on another device, so you had to find this device. So there was a logic that if you need and if you want more security, you're going to have to do more things in order to get that security. And that trend today is reversed. People want both at the same time convenience and security. So that's how biometrics comes into the play, because if I ask you to remember a passcode, you may forget it.
Sure.
Or if I asked you to have a little token device on the side where the code will be displayed, what happens if I travel, for example, to Johannesburg and leave it at home an entire week without my email? So biometric has one thing very nice, is you always have your biometric with you, so because it's you, it's something unique about you. So inherently, it's something that we can use to give you a security solution, because you're not going to have to remember something, you're just going to have to be yourself. And we're going to use a very unique attribute about you in order to help you to have a good security experience on your digital life. But this is where it's important. So a lot of enthusiasm and logically so to use biometrics, but it needs to be done right. And this is where I always emphasize that biometric is obviously cool, obviously secure, obviously brings you a lot of ways to discover and enjoy your digital life. But unlike a password that I forget, or I just get another one, if I lose my biometric information, it's irrevocable. So I need to be very careful on the way I enroll into a service, on the way I use a service, and my service provider, like my bank, needs to be very, very careful not to lose my information. So this is where Gemalto comes into the play. We help our customers to deploy biometrics properly, respecting people's privacy, because you don't want your biometric information to spread in unknown places. You don't want anybody to steal it and pretend it's you. So what's behind the scene, what you don't see as a user, is very important, and it needs to be done right with privacy respect.
So the challenge is around implementation and around ensuring that we can make biometrics really work for us as a security feature. And as you mentioned, it's important not only for security, but we practically live on our smartphones, our tablets, our PCs. So people want privacy as well. So the question is, you mentioned implementation is important, but how safe is biometrics per se to fight cybercrime and the growing concerns still around phishing?
It all started with very simple things on smartphones in 2014. Apple introduced a new iPhone at the time, the 5S, with Touch ID, with a simple mission, which was to help you unlock your phone, because they realize you do it 50 times a day with a passcode. So how about not entering 50 times a day your 4-digit passcode and replace it by a fingerprint? But the way they did it, you need to realize, was by doing a self-enrollment. So you and only you did it on your phone. The fingerprint reference data stay in your phone, so it doesn't go anywhere else. You can enroll your fingerprint and 4 more people's fingerprints. So the goal was really convenience, but not security, because it's not identification. I can't tell which of the 5 fingerprints is touching the Touch ID button on the phone. So it was really done to first unlock the phone, then open some applications, so do some very, very basic things. If we go further, and if we want to do payments, or tomorrow have an ID document or sign a transaction on the phone, we really have to make sure that we have both this convenience that we have today, but also the security.
We know how it's working on smartphones as an example, because I think most of us, we are familiar with biometrics when we have to get into our smartphones. But the other feature there is that it still requires that you also use a password. So anybody can get hold of the phone, even if they don't have your fingerprint. if they can break through your password, they still have access
Very good
to
question.
it. So
That's why the market is looking for alternatives to fingerprint, because as you mentioned,
so the potential is there, is
Yeah.
what we see,
Yeah.
but to actually make it effectively safe and secure as
Yeah.
a user, that I'm assuming still needs more work.
You're perfectly right. Today, what you have on your smartphone has nothing to do with security, because you can still bypass the biometric reader with your passcode.
Yes.
It's only convenience, because it's easier to put your finger on the sensor. Moving forward, if you really want to rely on biometric, you realize you need to investigate more sources, because fingerprint has many issues. One of them is if I do some gardening and I cut my finger, my biometric is not usable. Okay, so I always need to have a fallback solution with a passcode. Otherwise, I may not be able to use the service. Not even if I cut my finger, but if I do a jogging, I'm a bit sweating. Okay,
It's sweaty, wet, whatever the case.
fingerprint won't work. So with fingerprint technology, you will always have a need for a fallback on the password, which defeats a little bit the security benefit of biometrics.
Yes.
Because if I steal a phone, I'm not going to worry about trying to imitate the biometrics. I'm going to still attack the password like I always did. Okay, so I can bypass the biometric reader. Okay, that's why the industry is looking for alternatives where even if I do gardening or jogging or if it rains, my biometric will work, and there are 3 investigated areas right now. And my forecast is there will be many more, because voice, for example, is a biometric source. So today we have fingerprint massively used. We have facial recognition, which is getting in the early days to be used on smartphones.
But it's mainly on PCs at the moment.
PCs and smartphones. You have brand new generations of Samsung Galaxy phones, and soon coming other major phones will use facial recognition. And iris scan, which is another network in your eye. You have VINs networks in the iris, that is very biometric information. So these are in the early days. They don't have the inconvenience of fingerprint, which can be non-functional because of wet finger or these kind of issues. But the market will tell. It's too early to know if they will be successful, because the user convenience will decide. If people, especially with facial recognition, you need to realize that in order for it to work and be secure, you have to give some liveness detection, because otherwise I would take a picture of you and show the picture in front of the phone and pretend to be you. So you have to do things like moving your head to the left or blinking an eye or doing some selfie, because it's so most of the brands today are trying to make fun and make an enjoyable experience with facial recognition. But in my opinion, it's too early to know if the market will accept it.
I'm Zoni Lengubeni, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Globally, identity theft is a problem worth trillions of dollars and growing. Addressing this problem, a Johannesburg-based company said it's developed a world-first identity authentication technology that simulates the human thought process.
Eyes top left. Eyes top right.
The AIDX technology works off smartphones and many other devices with digital cameras.
I truly believe that IDX is revolutionary. I think it's the phase of which all new technologies will be built on later. And what I loved about it was that it can, at an industrial grade level, provide authentication using a cell phone, which is unheard of. And if we think about border posts or banks or anything else, one of the hardest things to do is authenticate a person. All its uses are still to be defined. But the first place that you would see this technology is in anything to do with banking or security using a cell phone. It's that accuracy is what we need, because that's the only way we can do bigger projects.
Established as a joint venture by the University of Johannesburg, AIthenticate launched its next generation technology at this year's Securix Security Industry Show.
So what we've been researching over the past 5 years and now taking to market is an artificial intelligence solution to the who question. This particular technology is entirely based on semantic memory. Okay? When you approach somebody that you know, who you know, that process which we as individuals naturally and instinctively go through stimulated this particular discovery initially to say, well, conventional biometrics not up to scratch, not up to the task. Let us see whether we can't get a device like this, the one thing we all carry with us all over all the time, to do what we as humans instinctively and naturally do, human cognition. Now, can we ever get to that? No. But are we well ahead of conventional biometrics, this technology, way ahead.
AI Authenticate documentation states that its technology on average performs 20 times better than existing biometric technology.
It was particularly related to the common authentication method that people have deployed extensively, the ubiquitous fingerprint. There are good publications on conventional, say, fingerprint results. Okay? You simply compare those results to what we've experienced on our sample database of about 1.4 million subjects, and you get the result. But it's independently verifiable using a BI tool called AIQ that we make available to customers. They can actually see what happens in the back end. They can test it for themselves. We've tested this technology extensively, even for twins, and the results have been very, very good. We have no hesitation to say, well, here's the technology, the 10th largest bank in the world, deploying this in 8 territories of the world for amongst 100 million customers. Test it and see what it does. And they've been at it for a year now.
So we are launching, in partnership with a few other companies who we have the agency for, a brand new mobile EFT platform. And that platform, its app, will be the first one to use the world's most secure system, which is AI Authenticate and the IDX platform. So that will allow you to authenticate yourself into the app without needing fingerprints, which, as you know, are not 100% reliable, especially in large population groups, but also that it will provide the user with the clarity of knowing that they are who they say they are, but also that we can store their documents for them correctly, because we are sure of who they are.
Cognitive processing starts with taking an identification photo. Proprietary software takes control of the device's digital camera and applies special filters, enhancing the image.
The eyes, in fact, equate to the device. Okay? The retinal tract, in fact, equates to the internet. The brain to the cloud, and the area of the brain, and there are 2 areas of the brain where that cognitive process in fact occurs, is in fact then similar to the cognitive processes we run in the background in high-end computers.
Authenticate, I mean, they were the ones who've actually done a lot of pioneering work in the facial identification space. So they've got technology that can identify people up to 800 meters away. And I know a lot of the Chinese companies have actually looked into that technology to try and implement it in China.
This is an evolutionary technology, and maybe the best way to look at it is this analogy. Which is Captain Kirk standing on his spacecraft, and he says, plot me a course from there to there. And everyone goes, wow, that's amazing. You know, he's going through a meteorite and he's warping there. But nobody asked, how did it know it's Captain Kirk? This is what this technology is. It's the next generation of security technology which will change the way the world works. And that's what I truly believe. And that's what I've seen in 25 years of being in the industry. I've never seen anything quite like it.
The AIDX technology is far from being equal to human abilities. It's currently in beta phase with more than 30 entities testing it. Marisa de Klerk, Joburg Today.